I remember exactly where I was when we came up with the name for Branches Worldwide. I was sitting with Brian Miller. We were in a conference room and we had whiteboarded all kinds of names about what we wanted to call this thing. It was 2018 and we weren't even close to finding a name. We had names like, Worldwide Impact and the 30-30 Challenge and Leaders Around the Globe. I mean, we had all kinds of things in blue marker all over the whiteboard. And then we opened the Bible and we started looking at John 15:5. And once we read through it, we settled in on Branches Worldwide. I remember thinking, gosh, this is so exciting. I mean, we had plans to change the world. And as we walked away from the conference room, I had a lot of hope. I thought things were going to be amazing. Fast forward 2 years, and the world is a completely different place. It feels like the world is in a free fall. I mean, there's a global pandemic that's killed millions of people. The global economy feels like it's stuttering and sputtering. Countries have closed their borders. People have lost jobs, lost businesses, lost loved ones. And if people aren't sick, they're not going to church, they haven't seen their friends and family, they're not going to school. The world was a completely different place than when we first started Branches Worldwide. And it was challenging to see. I was one of the few people that was traveling the world still during the pandemic. And I remember having a conversation with a guy in the Dominican Republic, a business owner, and he was scared. He talked about the things that he didn't know, things that he wasn't sure about, his employees, his family. There was a lot at stake for him. And then I talked to another leader in Thailand, and he wasn't sure about his business either, his employees, whether he could even stay open. It was a scary thing for a lot of people. Even in the United States, people were terrified about what was happening next. And so here we are at the end of 2020, and all of us had plans that have been upended. All of us had things that we were expecting to do this year that we just couldn't do. It feels like 2020 is a year that we are all just glad to put behind us. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of complication, a lot of frustration. And sometimes it feels like the only thing that we could be certain about is the fact that 2020 is a year that we will never forget. It feels like in world history, it's going to be things before the coronavirus hit and then things after. It's going to be a moment in history. But if you're like me, you believe that God's not done. He's not done working in the world. He's not done working in you, and he's not done working through you. And so if you're like me, you ask the question, what's next? How is God working to rebuild the world? What is it going to take to make things better? You see, throughout 2020, I found myself going back to the original chapter that we used to name Branches Worldwide, John 15. And I read it over and over and over again. And as I read it, the Spirit started to speak to me and I started to see things a little bit differently. You see, John 15 really is all about Jesus having a conversation with his disciples as he's about to enter one of the most darkest, difficult moments in his life. He's about to be crucified, just the very next day. And then what Jesus says is absolutely fascinating. In that moment, in his last conversations with his disciples, he says this, I am the vine, and you are the branches. Those who abide in me, and I in them, will bear much fruit. That's an amazing statement to make at the very end of Jesus' life. Because what he's doing is he's saying, what it's going to take to rebuild the world after he's gone, to restore things to the way they should be after he's gone, is this. Leaders, people, men and women who not only lead, but they abide in him. Jesus makes a promise because he says, if you abide in me and I in you, then you will bear fruit. It's not you might bear fruit, you will bear fruit. Things will happen when I abide in you and you in me. You see, Branches Worldwide believes that what the world needs now more than anything is leadership. Great leaders. Leaders matter to God. You see, over and over in the Bible, God identifies and invests in great leaders to steer the fate of entire communities. You see, if you look through the Bible, we all know stories of Joseph, David, Moses, Daniel, Peter, Paul, Deborah, leaders over and over again in the Bible that do God's work in the world. We know their names. We know their stories. We know why they matter. We know that God uses them to make a big difference in the world. Leadership matters to God But what's funny is that as Christians, as followers of Jesus, we often look to leadership as the last place for us to invest. I mean, we'll invest in programs and we'll invest in policies, but we don't often invest in people, the actual people on the ground who are making real decisions. You see, we believe that when we invest in leaders, when we identify the very best leaders and invest in them, everybody wins. Hospitals win, churches win, schools win, everybody wins, the gospel wins. You see, we believe that we are in the middle of a history-making, world-changing event. We believe that God is looking for men and women all over the world who are willing to get their hands dirty and invest and lead their communities. This is not the time to dream small dreams. This is not the time to pray small prayers. We believe that the future is not yet written, and God is looking for people who are willing to engage with Him to make a difference in the world now. Now is the time. And that's why we didn't stop when the pandemic hit. We went out as soon as we were able and found 4 leaders in 4 different countries. And in 2021, we are excited about what's next because we are looking for 10 more leaders in 10 more countries. We believe that there are leaders out there in South America and in Europe who are making a big difference in their community, and we want to find them, help them, and do everything we can to make a difference with the people that they live with. Here's the reality. I don't know how 2020 is going to end. I don't know how 2021 is going to end. But here's what I do know. We serve a God who's a God of hope. Our organization was built on hope. Our God is optimistic about our future. And Branches Worldwide is optimistic about the future. And that's why we won't stop. We know that God is a God of hope. And so we are ready to find leaders who are willing to instill hope in the people that they live with and the people that they work with. People who don't stop when things get rough, people who don't slow down when others lose hope, leaders who understand the value of the work that they do in the lives, not just in their own life, in their own families, but in the life of people that they work with, people that they live with, people that they go to church with. We believe there are leaders all over the world who are making a big difference, and we want to find them, invest in them, because we know that God works through leaders. And that's why Branches Worldwide serves global leaders. We want you to help us. We want you to join us. Now is the time.